Hello, family, and welcome. My name is Bafu Wendt. Um, my, I'm 66 years young, and I was born in Tonga back in 1955 at the old Viola Hospital. My mother is Onelua Wendt. Onelua is Baile's um, daughter and Halai Valu. Baile is the eldest of Sosaya Mataile's children, and that's my lineage. I come from Baile. Um, I think what I really wanted to say to begin with is I like to talk about the loss that we've had in the last 18 months in our family, which I think I need to get that off my chest first. We've lost a lot of great people in our family. And if I've forgotten somebody, it's because our family is so large. But I would start off with Auntie Toti, Malanga. Uh, what a lady who actually was always welcoming families. When I first came from Tonga, I stayed with her. Of course, I stayed in Kailua also, but this lady had a heart of gold, and it showed enough when she passed how many people loved her. I still miss her to today. Um, I was able to take her. Her favorite food was Kentucky Fried Chicken, really simple, and she just loved Kentucky Fried Chicken and coleslaw. And I was able to visit her many, many times. Um, so in my heart, I still have a void when I think about Auntie Toti. And I also lost my daughter last year, my daughter Tewila, um, whom many of you know. Um, it's funny if Elsie and Susie are on those two is the ones that introduced me to her mother, to Kitty, who Tangi knows Kitty pretty well, and later on when we all used to live close to each other on Namahana. Um, so I lost my daughter. I also the same day I lost also a very good friend and our cousin Matelau Sekona, uh, who was actually very influential in our sport of rugby here in Hawaii. But not only that, just a great person. If you ever met Matelau, one of the nicest people you can ever meet. Then, of course, I miss my cousin Tevita Pau. I remember him really well when we were younger. I was in LA with him. Another kind heart. I know he loved tennis, and I did see him in our family reunion, which is important, folks, that we have our family reunions because whether we have it small or big, we get to see each other and share stories. Tevita, I'm gonna miss you too. And then, of course, Ipu. Ipu was a bigger part of my life because I knew Ipu in Tonga, and then I knew him here in Hawaii. We all lived in Kailua with you know Uncle Latu, who's departed, Auntie Lolo. Ipu also a night. The beauty about this family is everybody was kind-hearted and everybody got along, and I think that's the reason why this family has been together all of these years because we share a lot together and we get along. That's the most important. We do get along. Ibu, I will miss you. Another great, great person in our family. And then, of course, you know, as of recently, my uncle Manu passed away. Man Matare, who was at 93 years old, that was my mom's brother, died there in San Francisco. Um, Another important person in my life because growing up in Tonga, I did not have my dad's family. My dad is a Wendt. He's from Samoa and also from Fiji. So I never really spent any time with my family, other than the Williams. I'm related to them, which is Mina and those guys. But my father's family didn't really get to know them that well in my younger days. So most of my family life was with the Matales. And I'll go over every one of them because they were all important people in my life. Uncle Manu, real easygoing kind of guy. Like most of the Matales, just don't piss him off. But a great, great guy. And he actually was a loving person too. And then as of recently, we just lost Uncle Harry. And many of you, we were just waiting for his funeral. But I think somebody that a lot of the young people were close to was the songbird, Voka. You know, what an influential voice that came out of our family. You know, I reflect on the Matales is this. The Matales is there's basically three things about the Matale family. Is religion, and if they get into it, they're heavy duty into religion. Business, they're business-minded people, and I always remember Grandpa Hamedi saying to me and to all of us when we were younger, why do you want to work for somebody when you can start your own business? And that's what the Matales were famous for, because I guess it all came from Sosaya, their father, our great grandfather. And then the third thing is music. And that's where, Volka's voice, I was so proud that she was able to come out with this generation and sing. And then everybody started knowing, hey, there's the Matales again. They're singers, they're musicians. But those are the things that I kind of reflect on, three things that I know that was important to be on Mata Island. Anyway, so let me reflect on my life growing up in Tonga. So I grew up in Tonga. I was because of my dad's they call him a foreigner. I was able to go to a small school called a side school, and I was able to go to school there and meet all of the, most of that time was only the Palangis and the Royals went to this school. I went through the side school, and then I went to Tonga High School. And at Tonga High School, I went to school there with Irene, which is my auntie Irene. Irene, I went to school with Irene, and Penny was there, and Panuve at Tonga High School. I finished Tonga High School in 1972. I was able to pass the university entrance exam, which allowed me to go to any university in the British Commonwealth. But I decided I wanted to go to Hawaii because most of our family was here. But let me reflect on the 1960s, growing up in Tonga. My grandfather had many brothers and sisters, but let me just talk about the ones that I knew because I got to know them pretty well. Let's start off with my grandfather. My grandfather, very, very religious man, and he loved his family. But and I'm pretty sure in the future that my other cousins will all talk about him. But the only thing I always remember about my grandfather is you better not be late to anything he sets up. Because if he sets up anything and you're late, he's going to go forward and you just missed it. For example, if he comes to pick you up and you're supposed to be there at 8 o'clock, you better be downstairs ready to go at 8 o'clock because he was one of the few people that had a car in town. So if you come down by 8:05, he's gone. Actually, right at 8 o'clock, he starts backing up. But he also was a great cook, cooked really good foods. And, Auntie Toti always tells me that, that she always loved his cooking. But Grandpa Maile was also a tour guide. And I think that's why I ended up in the tour industry was already in my blood. I remember when I was young, we used to get, cakes and all that stuff from all over the world, chocolates from people that Grandpa Miley would, Grandpa Miley was actually uh, taking around the island of Tonga when the cruise ships came in. So, so Grandpa Miley was, he's also an entrepreneur. And that, like, I guess, that's what the Matailes are all about. My grandmother, not a religious person. She loved her. They actually, I think everybody knows that one remained Catholic. My grandmother, my grandfather was a strong LDS, and they both stayed married all of those years, but they did not go to the same church. But they did keep, religion and faith in the house. So Latai was a big complex that a lot of people lived in. Uncle Joe did build more rooms in that place, but it was a big place, and we all lived there one time or another in Latai, which made us all close. I think the reason why the Matailes are really close, because at one time or another, we all kind of lived together or lived with each other. And that, to me, was one of the greatest things in my life, is I've actually was able to live with my cousins. It's not like you just see them. We woke up together, ate together, same table, and and to this day, that's why I'm close to many of you, and you probably all know that. And we actually all work together. Here in Hawaii, we all work together, and and we all spend lots of times together. But anyway, let me just reflect. My grandfather, oldest of the Matailes, a great man. And then his brothers. I got to know Grandpa Hameti, as we all know, entrepreneur, very, very smart. The one thing that I knew about these brothers, they were all brilliant-minded guys. They were all smart, very smart. So I did spend time with Grandpa Hameti, who actually was a socialite. He liked to have his drinks, but he also, was respected in Tonga by the Tongan community. And if you guys didn't know this, he's actually was the king made him the president of soccer in Tonga, because he knew that he could build soccer. And Grandpa Hameti was there, and he was basically the founder of soccer in Tonga. I ended up playing soccer for Kofo'o, won several championships with Kofo'o. Many of those guys played years later when I left Tonga. Then there's Loloma. Loloma, if any of you guys are good at pool, that's in your blood. Loloma, to me, was Minnesota Fats. Tonga's Minnesota Fats. And I think even if he had a chance to play Minnesota Fats, he's probably one of the top people in the history of pool. I think Grandpa Loma would have beaten him. The irony about him, he was left-handed, and people, always thought that he was right-handed because he can play both hands. But not just that, he was a great pool player. He was also an intellect, and many of you folks probably all know or heard that he was what they call it the Ducks of the school he went to, Toloa. He was actually smarter than the King of Tonga. He had better grades. King of Tonga was a very smart man, to go far. But Loma was there with him. And, and years later, when I got to sit down and talk to him, it was eye-opening. to realize how smart these men were. He loved to read, and that's my memories of Grandpa Loma. Loma's brother Alex, that many of you don't really hear too much about. He was, this guy was a big guy, but he didn't like to play any sports or anything like that. He was a reader. He liked to read, and so my dad used to have magazines and all that stuff. So every Sunday I used to take it to him, and he was a gentle giant. And of course they got Tweenie. Tweenie's whole deal back in the days. I used to remember him in the car. Our cousin car, which is Panuve and Ani and them's brother. They thought they were boxers, and it's all because they wanted to follow our cousin Foromanu Sekono. Anyway, and then I got to then this Grandpa uh, Lolo, which I didn't really know him because he passed away when I was still pretty young. Um, and then there's Grandpa Inoke. I just remember him as a poet, and I think a lot of his poetry is around. And I know that Auntie Luisa has it, and I hope that many of you get to learn his poetry and keep that, because he had a brilliant mind too. And then, of course, the rest of the brothers. Uh, we have Uncle Vic. Uncle Vic, I remember him in Tonga when I was young, listening to him sing on the radio, Moon River. And that song, Moon River, that year, they had a talent contest in Tonga. And Uncle Vic won the first real talent contest I think they had in Tonga, singing Moon River, which is Andy Williams' song. And of course, there's Grandpa Lucky. Lucky, man, that's another talented guy. Of course, you guys all know that he wrote a lot of those beautiful songs that Volk and them later recorded, like Pepe, which I know everybody's arguing about that, whether that's a song between Beauty song, or is that the Annie song. But Uncle Lucky, I remember him singing with, I know he used to like Pat Boone. And I remember him singing that song, on a day like today, we'll pass the time away, writing love letters in the sand. Um, and of course, they had the Liahona 7, and he was part of that. But Uncle Lucky, another great musician. And then we go to the youngest. No, well, I forgot about all the women. I didn't really know too many of the aunties, grand aunts. Only Auntie Lavi, because they used to always sing with Auntie Tovao and Alisi, Auntie Alisi. But Auntie Lavi had a beautiful voice. Also, another entrepreneur. These people all were entrepreneurs. Their whole thing was trying to build something in Tonga, start a business. They weren't looking to go and work for anybody. So Auntie Lavi, I know, rest in peace, she could sing, and she was beautiful. Auntie Lavi, Auntie Lovely of America, and of course we have Victory, and the names. The names later were like Lucky Democracy. They had names of almost like entertainers' names already. And then there's Josiah. Josiah, closer to our age, he could sing, um, and he actually ended up being in Pang in Samoa with Lavi and Uncle Joe. But reflecting back on some of these people, there's a lot of music in our family. And then, of course, I started a little band in Tonga. I was influenced by every year Beauty will come back to Tonga from American Samoa, and Josiah. This is in the early 70s. And Josiah will come, and of course, Josiah was already a star in Samoa. You know, we, there's an album, if you guys go on YouTube, there's a song called My Samoa that was sung by Uncle Josiah. But Beauty was, Beauty. They came back to Tonga and they brought all this American stuff. And of course, we also had Loisi come and Mina come from Hawaii, and we got Americanized. You know, we saw what America was all about. But Beauty, I remember Beauty. If you're not on yet, you know, I didn't know who Cher was, but Beauty, she used to she used to sing like Cher. Beauty can sing, by the way, too. But she used to do that, you know, what Cher was doing. And later on, I saw that on television. I'm like, hey, Beauty was doing Cher back in those days, you know. And of course, Josiah was singing Tom Jones type of stuff. So because of that, I wanted to start my own band in Tonga. So I started a band called The Crazy Five. I was very good friends with the Indian guys, with the Prema family, Richard and Naran and Navin and Danzuk. They sponsored my band. We started a band. So I had a band. I was the lead singer. We didn't have any other guy to sing. And I had Ernie Saffings, who still plays music to this day. This guy named Dile Niti, who lives in Sacramento. We were all 15, 16 years old at that time. And then we had a guy named Poco Taunaholo who passed away before we even started our band. And Litani and Finautupa. Later on, our band added on Spencer Fusmalo. But anyway, we had our little band going, and I was in the band. I think my parents was worried that I wasn't going to pass my last couple of years at Tonga High School because we were already starting up our band, and I was playing soccer for Go4O at that time. I was the youngest member of the soccer team for Go4O. We won the championships those years. It wasn't just me. We had a great team. A lot of international players who played on our team. So anyway, I started my band, and 1972, we opened up at Wuna Hall. And if you guys ever grew up in Tonga, Wuna Hall was a packing place. They used to pack bananas and all that stuff to ship over. And it's right on the wharf. And we played in this place on New Year's Eve, 1972. And we were really the only band. We were doing Carlos Santana's music and doing Jimi Hendrix. Tonga was into R&B and country. We kind of tried to introduce heavy rock. And it was all because we just played the music loud and people didn't care. And they just danced around. But we had fun. So I hung around in Tonga for a couple more years. And then I came here in 1974. So I landed here. But before that, before I came, we had another influence with Tony, Latu's son, Tony, which is son Lolo and his brother. He came over to Tony and to live with us in Tonga. He brought a new influence, all his dance moves and all that stuff. And you guys, Tony's in a wheelchair right now, but you can talk to all the cousins. That's one man on the move. He can move, he can dance. Couldn't sing, but he can do all of that stuff. And he was pretty smooth too. So he danced around, did all that stuff. And so we all wanted that, we all wanted to follow that. And then, of course, Gideone came home at that time. But, and then Benny came home from Hawaii. So Benny and I know Atu, I see you, Atu. So Benny and
I'm here.
We like to party young back in those days.
Yeah.
So what I would do is that time was go down to, we had the canteen, okay? And like I said, you know, Grandpa Ahmed, he had all his businesses. He's an entrepreneur. So, and Atu was running the canteen. So I would go there to the canteen, talk to Atu while Penny would steal all the money on the side because we needed to party on the weekend.
That's why my dad bring Luciana to take care of the business.
She was just as bad because she looked the other way too. Anyway, so Penny and I, you know, and I think a lot of family know that we've been partners in crime since we were really young. Because a lot of everybody moved away, and then, but Penny, I tell you, Atu put up with a lot of fun. Come over to the canteen, try to distract her, try to steal money. I never forget Grandpa Hamidi trying to run Penny over with his car one time because Penny, instead of stealing just the coins, was now shifting to stealing the. Well, we weren't stealing; we were actually just borrowing paper money. So anyway, that was part of our life back in Tonga. You know, the greatest thing about growing up in Tonga, you know, and I'm thankful that I didn't come here early because I got to see, you know, there's struggles, but you know, it was more important to have something, to have family, you know, and and we stuck together. And you know, and then I come over here to Hawaii, and it's the same thing here. Everybody's together. And you know, I got to when I arrived here in Hawaii. I mean, everybody was always together, and that I think there was the big influence came from Adikalo. You know, she came here and she wanted to bring the family up here, and of course, Grandma May. You know, that's another beautiful person in my life. She used to always give me money when nobody else wanted to give me money. Um, what I mean, I arrived here in Hawaii, so I might have missed some of the things here, but I arrived here in Hawaii and I go and live in Kailua. Uncle Ladu and Auntie Lolo, what a beautiful person. Those two were so kind to me. But you know, I know that you know this is the beauty of our family is everybody's very very kind, and we like to talk smack about each other, but it's all in fun. But so I came here and I live with them, and you know, Ofa Kapoano was our only sister there. But there was a bunch of us that lived in the house. It was Sean Lolo was still here, and I'll talk a little bit more about him. Rest in peace, Sean Lolo. Freddie, that guy was a conniving guy. Freddie, there's so many stories about Freddie. And then of course we had Yipu was living there part time. Um, we had King Dudupo. You know, he ended up in Oregon and he passed away. Uh, and of course, you know, we had Billy, Billy. You know, rest in peace, Billy. Billy was a guy. He was an entrepreneur too. You know, he used to go and find us little jobs and climb trees on weekends to get some money, so we could come into town and go to all the nightclubs. By the way, you know, the Matales were at that time, all of young people, all of us, everybody wanted to party. Hey, you want to party with the Matales? We have a lot of fun. So, but anyway, so I lived with those guys, and you know, SA was a great athlete. He, I remember him going to the championship, and we lose in the championship. He and SA was the instrumental of taking Kalaheo that year to the championship. And he used to practice throwing the ball at us. And that guy can throw a wicked ball, man. I can remember trying to catch the balls he used to throw at us. So SA was at Kalaheo. Sam was at Kalaheo. Those were like my little brothers, you know. Um, but you know, I'm missing something. I got to reflect back to Apikolatai because that's when Auntie. Sorry, I'm so sorry to backtrack. When Auntie Alisi died, we all moved into to Latai, and that was Uncle Duke and those guys all moved in. Not Uncle Duke, my cousin Duke. All of Alisi's children, but Maafu and their father, you know, they ended up with parents with Shaus and Soko. But Rosie and them we all grew up together in Latai. And I'm so sorry. You know, I should have talked a little bit more about this. My grandfather always used to have Monday was our family evening, and he used to make food. But his favorite thing was making ice cream, homemade ice cream. And Miley's homemade ice cream was so good that you know you kind of waited around that whole week to get to Monday. But you have to have you have to do something. You either do a little poetry, play a guitar, do something. Otherwise, you're not gonna eat that ice cream. And that's the reason why a lot of us started learning how to sing because or doing some kind of poetry because that's all we, you know, in order to get to the ice cream. Um, my cousin Duke, I grew up with him. He's like my older brother, and to this day he still is. Um, that guy used to trick me all the time to give him money so we can go and shoot pool and make more money. But we all ended up losing all of that and never got to the movies. But you know, it's a simple life of growing up in Tonga. We didn't have a lot of money, but we knew people. But we also had family that owned movie theaters, you know. So we were able to get in for free and see the same movie over and over and over and over. Same movie. But anyway, reflecting back to coming back here to Hawaii, and so you know, I know that Tanya and I talked about some of our cousins who passed, and um, I think the biggest hit that hit me right off the bat in the late '70s is um, that's after I went back to Fiji, by the way, in 1976, joined a little band called Fiji Five, which was a big band in Fiji at that time. Came back here. Did not continue playing music, but I ended up just hanging around with Uncle Vic and all those guys. But um, it's a reflection on what was going on at that time. Is you know, coming back here to Hawaii, and then the late 1970s, we lost Grandpa Clom Tony, uh, Uncle Tony. And you know, it's funny when you talk about, you know, I know that Auntie Carlo and Uncle Kawasi never had good credit, but Uncle Tony's whole deal was pay your bills. He was adamant about that stuff, and he just built his own little, you know, his own little group of people, business people around there in Kapahulu that, you know, you just go talk to them about Tony, and they go, oh yeah, we'll do anything for Tony. But that's Grandpa Tony, and what a loving person he was. And you know, I know that Grandma Lata is still alive today. You guys should go visit her. But Grandpa Tony, I always remember him as the man who paid his bills. That was his whole deal. And that same year, I lost probably a person that was very, very close to me. We became good friends. He was in Tonga when I started my band, and he saw me there, but we didn't really know each other. Is my cousin that played by. Um, you know, so those of you who probably heard about that guy, he was about 6'3", 6'4", had this most beautiful smile, and the guy was very handsome. He's a handsome guy. Uh, he did love to party, and but he had a big big heart, and you know when I reflect on him about him, I think about the sitting at Diamond Head Lookout. That's the Christmas, the New Year's uh, of the year that he passed. I got to spend New Year's Day with him. We sat there, watched the sunset in a little yellow Volkswagen Bug that I had, and then we came down to Kapilani Park, and we met Tonga and those guys there, and all of the younger cousins that we had. But I remember, when he passed, I was in shock, and I think that's the reason why Stan and I got to be really close, because um, Nai, which is his nickname, was a very special person, good guy. I also lost my cousin Faitu, who is Louis' mom, Inoke's mom, and baby's mom. But I I I was close to Faitu because Faitu I knew Faitu from Tonga, because when Faitu was living in Tonga, she was living in Fiji with Mono and Afui. And Afui and those guys, they're actually related to my grandmother. By the way, my name Mafu Tui Tonga is my name. I was named by Afui's father, Kani Vause Misi. Anyway, that's how we related on my grandmother's side. But dear old Faitu, another entrepreneur. She had her own little stores. She was able to make her own lace. She was always selling something. And I went with her a couple of times, get the poor, off the tree with her husband George, with Toti, and you know, to me, the thing about Faidu that I will always love is whenever I needed anything, like a piece of tapa, the stuff you sell to the tourists, she would always give me that to give to the leaders of my tour groups. Because if I give that to the leader of my tour group, I get more money in tips. And I knew that it was a way of finagling to get something out of the tourists. But for you folks that never met these guys, Faidu, big big heart. She had a big heart, and I have fond memories of her too. So anyway, continue on. Um, Uncle Vic was playing music in town. Uncle Josiah was playing music in town. He was playing there's a place called a Beef and Grog. If you ask any of our family members that's about my age, they all went to the Beef and Grog. It was a big party central. Hey, the Mata Islands were partying back then. And we all went there. But Josiah was playing music there in the afternoon. He'd be the soul musician in the afternoon. And then he also played at the Kohia Hotel. Irony about that is Uncle Viola was around. If you ask Uncle Josiah, he lost a lot of his jobs because Uncle Viola was there. Uncle Viola will be over there and taking over the bar because he'll get a little too much in him drinking that Josiah ended up losing some of his jobs. Uncle Vic at that time was playing at the All House, and if Sam remembers, the All House was in Hawaii Kai. The All House was actually a bar that Uncle Vic played in. But I talked Sam one time to driving me from Kailua to go see them. And if you talk to Sam about that, Sam got in trouble. I got in trouble with Auntie Lolo on a Sunday just to see Uncle Vic play. But at that time, that whole complex, the security of that complex at that time was Boses El Lomo. Boses El Lomo used to run that whole complex. Him and another guy, I can't remember his name now, another Tongan guy. They used to be the security over there. So anyway, I mean, this is how all the family. But when we were living in Kailua, reflecting back to Kailua again, with Tony knowing everybody in the neighborhood, the Lomus was there was really only like 3 families, well, 4 families. There's more missing those guys. We were on Lanai Way. On Oniava was on the Lomus, and of course, you guys probably heard a lot of stories about those guys. Especially the guys that most famous out of that was Ula, and then of course the Tuponiwas, and those are the only families that was living in Kailua back in the 1970s. So I used to come into town, and Freddie would either get us a ride into town. We had a little car back in those days, and it was called the Asi. The translation, of course, is in English. It means something else. But that car, we would try and get it over the hill and then drive all the way into Kapiolani Park to go to rugby practice. Back in those days, with no gas. We used to go also to they had the drive-in theaters. That car, we all learned how to drive. I mean, we basically knew how to drive, but we all drove that car. If you ask Sam and ask SA, and I think Micah even learned how to drive that car. Had plenty dents in it, but had no floorboards. There was no floorboards in the car. The only floorboard was actually the driver's seat. The other 2 seats in the back had no floorboards, and the passenger seat. So we used to go watch the movies, eat, and then by the time you back it up, you'll see a pile of trash sitting right there underneath our car. But we were living and having fun, and as young people, and of course Tony was always taking us places. But we used to come into town, see Uncle Vic. Uncle Vic was playing at the Hilton, by the way. He played at the Hilton for 18 years. He actually had a band with Moke Ale. Moke Ale is Israel Kamaka Vivaole's uncle. And one of the best jazz musicians in town, a guy named Sam Bahia. And they had a band, and they used to play in the Garden Bar. And they played there, and then in the later part of the evening, Uncle Vic would play at the Golden Dragon. But those were fun times. I mean, so much music, so much places to go. I remember Uncle Vic when he released that album with that song Unu Unu Mai in it. He wrote a song there. I was there that morning when he started writing that song called "I Play Guitar and Sing a Song." He wrote that song all in a day. I mean, his family is very, very talented in music. Also, very, very talented. And at that time, Auntie Pat was there. Ikuna and Miley was still very, very young. I think they remember me and Josiah coming home. After Josiah's, would be playing music, we'll go out all night and come home over to their house and bother them the following morning as they were preparing to go to church. Anyway, so in this, like I said, we also all worked for Uncle Kawashi Construction. And I think one of the biggest projects that I worked on was the one they have out there at Mokuleia, that camp. He did a big job out there. Uncle Wasi got us all working over there. That's I remember that was the early '80s. So all of us was out there. Um, we spent like 3 months out there. Bandy, everybody was here then, and I worked with Uncle Kawasi doing his jobs, and then of course Motopota had his own little jobs. We also worked for him, and again, all of our families, all of us was working together. And I remember Stan pulling little tricks on me all the time. You know, going to a store and leaving a can of soda at the door, and he'll be sitting in the car, yelling at me to grab his soda. And when I grabbed his soda and ran out to jump in the vehicle, he tells me he never even paid for the soda. That guy used to play those kind of tricks. But we all worked together. I mean, it was a family business. We all worked together and we got along really well. Then Moana comes in. I remember Moana came in from the mainland, and he lived with me for a little short time. Um, and again, Moana was finding us little jobs to go and do, and it's just we were always together, and I think that's the reason why we're always so close. And you guys probably see that when we all get together, we're always laughing and clowning on each other because we know some intimacies about each other. Anyway, so then came the 1980s. I started working for a little company called Waikiki Express, and that's where my attorney Tana was working with us. But Tana was always a great athlete. Played rugby for the Harlequins. Great soccer player, and of course Ula was also another great athlete. Played for Galaheo, one of the first guys when Galaheo had their first senior class. Ula was in there. You know, God bless his soul, but Ula was another loving person. I never forget how he's always. I mean, it's so easygoing. Just an easygoing person. But I got to tell you a quick story about him. So we go on a rugby tour for the Harlequins. We're on a big in Maui, and that time Ula was still he was still running around. We were all still having fun. So we're over at Lahaina Luna High School, and Ula pulls up in this Mercedes Benz convertible and doing donuts in the you know the parking the school. I'm like, hey, where you get this car? He tells me, I'm standing over there at the Maui Hyatt Maui. This guy pulls up. He looks at me, and Ula's all tan, and Ula looks. I mean, he looks like a surfer dude. He was a surfer dude anyway. And this idiot Palangi guy throws the keys at him of his rent a car. So Ula jumps in the car and drives over to Lahaina Luna High School to see us in this car. Ula, doing donuts in his car in the parking lot. And years later, he wanted to introduce me to Adam Sandler. So, he calls me up one time and goes, hey, I'm over here at Lulu's. Come over to Lulu's, and I have Adam Sandler over here. I want you to meet him. And I regret this to this day because I could have met Adam Sandler and continue his friendship because him and Ula had a great friendship. And all of the guys that was in that movie, 51st Dates, Ula, he had a great relationship with everybody. Um, and of course, the family that he worked for, um, Paul Mitchell Estates. I just laugh when Ula tells me, come, 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 come. But I didn't show up. But then he told me what he did is that night, him and Adam Sandler, they would drive back to the Adam Sandler was staying at the Kailua Hilton. They drive back over there, but instead of taking the limousine, Adam Sandler would jump into. If you guys gonna remember that blue little Ford Ranger that he had, Adam Sandler was driving that, and Ula was sitting in the passenger seat. And if you remember, when you pull up at the Kailua Hilton, they always tell you to go around the back. You know, if you don't, if it's not a a limousine or a bus, a tour bus, they want you to go to the side. And Ula told me it was priceless, the expression that they had when they pulled up and the guy's waving Adam Sandler to go to the side, and Adam Sandler stops and gets out of the vehicle, and they almost wanted to get the red carpet and pull it out at that time. But I think, and for Ula, I know Ula laughed his head off, but I think it was they did that for cheap laughs. But then that's the night that I was supposed to meet Adam Sandler. But God bless Ula, man. God is another guy, heart of gold, man. Like I said, man, you know, I'm so lucky to grow up in this family, and you know, uh, we have our tough times, and but we always seem to be together and laugh it off. I just saw Tony recently when he came, for one of our family stuff here, and to see my mom, and had good laughs. There's so many stories, that I can't even tell you guys about. My attorney says I cannot tell you guys all about those stories. Anyway, so in the 1990s, I wanted to start I had my little tour company, but late 90s, I wanted to start a company because I still was carrying my Fijian citizenship. And in order to start a business in Fiji, you have to be in business with somebody that's, the company has to be 51% owned by Fijian. So I went to Fiji. That time, Sean Lolo was there. And Sean Lolo, if you guys want to grab the mind of Sean Lolo, I still have his emails he sent me. I mean, I know some people criticize what Sean Lolo did, but that guy is just he was smart. So anyway, I have his emails, and if you guys ever want to read it sometime, I've kept it because I thought that someday some of you guys might want to read what he wrote. And anyway, so I go to Fiji, and I wanted to meet. My grandmother related to some of the chiefs over there, but I wanted to meet the people in government. And guess who introduced me to all the people in government? It's John Lolo. John Lolo just moved to Fiji. He knew everybody in Fiji already. Okay, it was just that guy was just something else. But John Lolo also, if you guys, when we were younger in the 70s, John Lolo, they had a disco magazine here in Hawaii, and a magazine that was was like the local scene of entertainment. And so Lolo was one of the publishers for that.
It's called Disco Scene.
Remember that? Say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to be his driver.
That's right. And you know what I'm talking about. He used to take me to some of those things too, and I got to meet a lot of people. But that's sure, I mean, that's why a lot of our nephews and all that stuff, if they want to read about stuff, I still hold on to his emails because I'm blown away by the mind of Sean Law. He was just he was a brilliant mind. Like I said, back in the disco era, there he had his own thing going, And I go to Fiji and say, I thought I knew people over there. He knew all the people. I had meetings with the Minister of Agriculture. It had nothing to do with what I was trying to do. I was just trying to start a real estate company in Fiji at that time. But anyway, sad to say, Shona, my the last trip I went to Tonga, to Fiji, I took him my suitcase full of clothes. I don't know if I told you that or Sam, but I took him clothes and we all stayed at the hotel. Uncle Manu was with me. It was Uncle Manu's 80th birthday. So Lola and I and Uncle Manu, we stayed at the Holiday Inn. But Johnny at that time, he didn't want to go to, but he actually introduced me to the guys in music too. The guys was in the bands over there in Fiji. I played for the Fiji Five, but all my guys I was playing with in the 70s are all old already. He introduced me to the top band. He was living with the guys in the top band in Fiji at that time in Lamy. That guy, he was able to get around, man. For some reason, I think it's because he had an infectious personality. He would come up to you and want you to be his friend, right? And that was Shona. And but I think about the last day I saw him. He actually he's in Suva. He rode the bus with me all the way to the airport in Nandi to say goodbye to me, and I gave him whatever I had, monies, and said goodbye to him, and that was the last time I saw him. But that was my trip to Fiji. Then in that year, let me just jump into the 2000s. What I was doing, I tried to restart rugby in Hawaii to where it is today. I also had a tour company that I ran for 8 years. Just had bad partners, and but I'm still working on putting some stuff together right now, and we're still, I have my partner. We do all the events. We brought all of those rugby events at the Lost Stadium. Now that the stadium's closed down, we have to wait another 2 more years, but we're working on something. But anyway, I mean, I see essays here. SA and Sam and everybody. You guys are all my brothers. I'm just so lucky and fortunate that I grew up here. And then, of course, I forget about somebody else who was important in my life was T Tonga. T Tonga came and lived with us in Latai, and then when he got married to Lata, I came and lived with him here too for a short time. When I came back from Fiji, and then I saw Val and Lisa grow up. So I mean, my whole life, I've always been with somebody in my family, and then of course now I have Moana, he bugs me all the time, but he wants me to tell the family that he is the reformed and most precious person in the family. If you guys want to believe that, he told me to tell you guys all that today. See, even SA is laughing. See, the thing is, we all know a little bit about somebody's deep, deep secret. Anyway, I love you all. I know I hope that I didn't take up too much of your time today. You guys have any questions? Ask my attorney, Donna. He's on the other line. Before I can talk to you guys.
You might have to let us some secrets. No, nothing has come through Venmo yet.
Well, share a little bit about my brother son-in-law if there's any time.
I can't let anything about the dead. I like to keep it amongst the living.
Martha, you can't go away without singing us a song, though. You got to pick one and sing it.
Well, I was gonna sing a song, but I'm gonna get my karaoke machine together by next week, and I'll sing you guys some songs. reflecting about music, I think our family is very, very into, jazz. I got influenced by jazz by Uncle Joe, and of course, Joe and his wife, Adia Alisi. It's crazy that that song that Alisi wrote about Uncle Joe was redone by Spawn Breezy, and became a big hit song. And that was written by Adia Alisi, by the way, and she can write songs too. I mean, so for me, music is in our soul. I mean, it's. I look at some of the kids that are coming up now. I see that a lot of them are trying to record. Even my brother's daughter just did a recording in Australia. But and by the way, another thing that I totally forgot was 1975. The biggest party ever been to in my life. You guys are all young, Donna. Was Auntie Carlos' wedding. I just happened. I don't know why they chose me to be in the party, but if you see, there's a kid with a big afro in there. That was me, And what a party, what a party. I mean, I've never seen anything like that to this day, and I know that everybody's bringing it up again. But I've never seen a wedding like that. Never. I mean, even in Tonga with the royalty, I've never seen anything like that. Crazy. What's crazy? That party. And then of course Hawaiian Hut. I think all of us have skeletons at the Hawaiian Hut. Hawaiian Hut. Some of us danced at the Hawaiian Hut. Some of us partied at the Hawaiian Hut. Partied hard at the Hawaiian Hut. And the dancers, of course, they know who they are. But before I'm basically done, I want to just say this to all my beautiful cousins, especially my girl cousins. I remember coming from Tonga, and then everybody go, "Why don't you go out with a Tongan girl?" I go, "Tongan girl? The only beautiful Tongan girls at that time. Sorry, Tongan girls. But the only beautiful Tongan girls at that time was my cousins." That's why you guys all had seen me with Palangi girls all the time. I'm sorry. That was the fact.
Yeah, we had girls that liked Ma'afu and all our first cousins, but we were like, nope, off limits. Nope, sorry.
George has a question for you, Uncle Ma'afu. George, do you want to ask your question? George?
Yes, hi, Uncle Ma'afu. It's me, George.
George, you want me to talk about your dad? That's a whole other chapter. I love him. I didn't want to talk too much about him.
No, and just for family history, how did Auntie Eleanor meet your father?
Oh, I don't really know too much about that, but I know that my dad came from Tonga, from Fiji. My dad came from Fiji working for Morris Sedstrom's, for Maurici. Morris Sedstrom's at that time was a company owned by an Australian company, an Australian New Zealand company. My dad was the accountant. And that's how he ended up in Tonga and met my mom. And he basically never left after that. Poor guy. Mom had a stranglehold over. See, all her cousins all know that.
Hey, Mafu, did you and Penny come to Tonga at the same time? I mean, come to Hawaii at the same time?
No, actually, Penny came first. And then he went back to Tonga. He came to Tonga. And he's the guy that actually came a bad influence on me.
I think it was mutual.
I see Auntie Carla there. Hi, Auntie. Love you.
Hi. Hi.
Uncle Mafu, this is Duke Jr. Can you hear me?
Yes, Duke. Go ahead.
Hey, listen. So first, I'm going to make a statement, and then I have a question for you. So my question is, I'm not sure that the shirt that you have on, I don't know what it stands for. The second question that I have is my mother, Fawiki Lotaki, being from the jungle that she comes with. Was there any stories that you can possibly remember that you sort of kind of share with us?
Okay, let me start off with your mother. And I'm sorry I didn't even mention her earlier. That's because I didn't want to talk too much about your dad.
Well, thank you again for pointing that out. Maybe I should have listened to the first statement that you made with George. I guess I should not have asked that, so I apologize.
Duke, your mother, I'm telling you, was one of the best sister-in-laws that we ever had in our family. And when she passed, I they called me and asked me to send the orchid flowers and all that stuff. And I tried my best to send. If you remember, it was all the flowers in there was because your mother. When I came and lived with them for a short time in Hollywood, and then Penny and I actually went all the way to Southern California after that to live with Eleanor and them. But your mom, I tell you, that she was a saint to put up with your dad. And nothing against my brother, but your mom, just a beautiful soul. And this for many of us in the family, we all remember your mom really, really well, and we have so much fun memories of her. And from my shirt that I'm wearing, there's a few of us that know who the best teams in the
Okay.
Thank you, Uncle, for sharing that. Thank you.
Okay. Can I say something? Fawiki and Sipo, when they first got married, they lived with us in Apelicola. They live upstairs in Apelicola before they moved back to Latay. But when they first got married, they live in Apelicola.
I think a lot of people.
Atu, I love you for that. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Love you, dude.
Thank you.
Can I say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I came in late. I totally forgot about our little Zoom. But I have you mentioned, because you are the first one from our clan to from Maile clan to speak on Zoom. So it's very important to me that I would ask you to share your experience about Grandpa Maile, because I grew up when I was growing up in Tonga. Grandpa was very old and grumpy. So every time we would go to Latay, he would chase us to go back home because there are so many of us, Longoa over there in Latay. But I would love to hear your experiences with Grandma and Grandpa, your memory about them, because we're recording this and our future generation can hear and all your experiences about Grandma and Grandpa.
Okay, I'll jump back to that, but one of the things that I totally forgot to talk about really is actually my mom's brothers and sisters. And I don't want to talk about Uncle Joe because I feel like everybody knows a lot about him, and we all loved him. It's just the same thing that how much I love Latu and Kalani and those guys. For me, because I live with all of these folks over the years, they became my parents, But one of the things I need to tell you about your father, being a doctor, he actually was one of the people that pushed me for schooling, and he was really upset that I didn't finish school when your dad, and he was he was an intellect, very smart man, and he had a very, very great heart, your dad. And then of course your mother, Val was, as compared to my mom, that was sainthood. Don't tell her that.
Hey, don't say that about my sister.
Auntie Lika, You know, there's another saint person, another saint. And then To'ava'o, To'ava'o, I tell you. And then, of course, you had Rafi, Uncle Rafi, you know, my mom's brother, Rafi. He was the news reporter back in the days. He used to do the report, and then we start, you know, the one thing about the Matais they like to do is sit around and argue. You guys are all laughing, but that's a fact. You go to.
It's so true, Uncle. Good statement. So true.
You go to Latai, they argue. You go to Apericola, they argue over there, you know? And then they argue about everything, from religion to the story that we, I mean, it's just, and nobody can get a word in now. They're all arguing at the same time, and you just sit there and go, okay, when is somebody gonna listen? You know? But that's how they were. And of course, Uncle George, you know, my mom's younger brother George, who liked to play music, and I think he also influenced Sipu. But I gotta tell you, when we were living in Latai, Priscilla, I was such an Elvis Presley fan that Priscilla's name, and everybody thinks she's named after the whole Eke Priscilla. No, that's Priscilla Presley. I know Priscilla Presley, Elvis Presley's wife. Micah, who's a deceased cousin, you know, was named after Michael Jackson. Yeah. Anyway, about Grandpa Maile, you guys want to know? You know, Anna's on here, but the thing about Grandpa Maile, he was an intellect, but he also wanted to work for himself. And I kind of went over a little bit about, you know, Inga, if you're ever late, forget it. You're gonna have to walk. As soon as he pulls up at 10 o'clock, you're not there, the car is pulling back already. Hi! That's Maile. Your Grandpa Maile, he wanted everything on time, you know, and I'm a tour guide. I think I got that from him. He used to drive around the taxi, take all the tourists, and every Christmas we get all these candies and everything coming in from all over the world. You know, people writing in, sending in packages. And, you know, the only thing is, when my aunt and them I remember, because he wasn't that old at that time when we left, he used to like us to massage his head. He had a whole set of hair, okay? Liked us to massage his hair. And then he used to use sugar cane, you know? That guy had, if you looked at his teeth, he had big teeth, okay? Because he used to just, you peel the sugar cane, you use a knife. He peeled it with his teeth. Like
Flossing.
Yeah, not just flossing. This is chewing and then throwing into the sugar cane. And then he was famous for peanuts. You throw the peanut in one mouth and spit the shell out the other. And everybody, you know, back in those days, used to go down to, you know, I used to go down to shoot pool, you know, and you know, we all want to be like Grandpa Loma, and of course, you know, cousin Duke, he basically lives shooting pool, but the best pool player is Loma. Anyway, so I used to go down there to the pool hall, and you know, our cousins, the Bloomfields, and that, you know, that's our cousins on
Konai.
Yeah.
The Konai side.
Yeah, Konai side. Yeah, they both, you know, he used to say to me, "Alo kaya maire kai pinati." I'm like, oh. Then I found out we're related to those fools. I'm like, and then there was those are the guys that used to tease me when I was young. Him and Lutu Mailangi. You know, that son played football here. I used to call him Lutu Matakikila. You know, he had a big policeman. He used to tell me all the time, "Auki fishy, kai poteringa," you know. Teaching me about my dad that we eat the ears, the Fijians eat ears. You know, but Grandpa, Maile, everything on time, good cook. Mondays, remember Anna and those guys? We used to have a Monday family evening. Home evening, and if you don't sing, you don't do anything, read poetry or anything, you don't eat ice cream. Miley deal. That's why we used to have to learn songs, and we, I mean, we had to learn all these songs. If you ask, Rosie, those guys, they used to climb up in the tree, sing from the tree, And then Grandma, she was so, there's another saint. She was really, she doesn't really push anything, But she always had a favorite, and that was Valu. Valu was her favorite. When we all living together.
Oh.
We have bread in the morning, and with tea and all that stuff to go with the cocoa for breakfast. Valu will have her own separate bread and her own separate little teapot. Okay, of cocoa. All of us looking at each other like, how come that one gets special? Because her name is Halai Valu. Growing up, it's funny, Latai, because I remember when Uncle Joe was a boxing promoter, then we had Sammy Halalilo. All those boxers all used to stay there. And then Fonomano and those guys used to come and train in Latai too, get ready for the amateur fights. My father at that time was the secretary for boxing. And so I was we were always going to the fights. I watched every fight Fonomano fought. And back in those days, Vaha Ifefekan right now, he used to fight too. Solomon, Fina Solomon, all our relatives from Fo'oi, was all fighting. It was crazy. Every Friday, how we used to go watch the fights. But a little bit about your grandmother. Grandma, well, she just made sure everything was good at home. She let Laufidi get away with everything. Miley would be mad at Laufidi, but he was always trying to make sure everything was peace. And that's my memory of our grandparents.
What was the flavor of the ice cream that made everyone sing?
Vanilla. Vanilla ice cream. But every now and then he added a little chocolate to it. But it's vanilla ice cream. And it's man-made ice cream now. I don't know how you make man-made ice cream, but this is Tonga.
Wow.
This is a
Maafu, wasn't your grandpa in Samoa? Because that's what the Samoans do.
Correct. He grew up in Samoa.
Yeah. Wow, that's interesting. The Samoans did that forever.
Correct.
He went to school in Samoa, eh?
Yeah. Well, actually, what happened is he went to Samoa. Matale sent him to Samoa. Okay, so he went to Samoa. This is the story that I heard. Okay, he went to Samoa, and he lived with the Nubo family in Samoa, and the Pritchards. So they were kind of like his family. They kind of adopted him and all that stuff. And then he came to Tonga. Matale bought a brand new car. Matale had only, I think, one of the few cars in Tonga at that time. Tosaya.
It was the only car.
The story goes, Matale got, Miley was there, but Matale got Miley to drive around the car. But Miley at that time was getting ready. Can you imagine this? Miley was getting ready at that time with the Nubo brothers, Nubo and the Pritchards. They were going to come back here and go to New York. Because Miley at that time was a violinist. That's another thing that you guys don't know. He played the violin. And my grandmother played the piano. And I think that's the reason why they got along. But then the story goes, Miley was dapper, That's one of the things that a lot of the Matale boys still do. They want to look dapper, when they go out. And look at even your nephews. I call Paulo, Paulo Lato. I call him GQ because remember the days when he was young, he was always dressed up. Anyway, so Miley was a dapper guy. He was driving the car with the queen, and the lady in waiting was my grandmother. And that's how the story goes, and that's how they met. But everything else, I don't know too much about. But I think many people heard the story. But Miley was not a grumpy guy. He wasn't. He was actually a happy guy. I think what made him grumpy is your Uncle George and they was still drunk back in those days. On
I
Sunday,
think there was just too many of us at the house. And then that's my memory. He was always a grumpy old man.
but you know that he drove up until he was 90, and then everybody decided to take that away from him, and he started riding a bicycle. You know that, right?
Yeah.
He almost
So,
got run
so
over.
Mafu, how many? I've only heard stories of Latay. How many families? How many bedrooms does that home have, and how big is it?
It used to be huge.
The bedrooms, we had about eight bedrooms, eight bedrooms, but we also had a house, two houses outside, two small houses outside.
Oh, yeah.
Uh,
I remember growing up and like, the town girls. You town girls were always the talk of the town back then. But I always wondered how big that house is because I'm thinking, wow, everybody comes, all my cousins that live in town live in that house, live in that place called Latay.
yeah, or one time or another lived there. Because even
Right.
Tevita lived there, you know, Tevita?
Ah,
Yeah.
Can I say something?
oh.
My mom said, remember that house, the house would belong to Tungi and Queen Salote. When they got married, they lived there. And so that house was fully furnished with velvet and everything because before the king Tupoua died, that's where they were living. And so my mom told me that when it was the World War II, they were forced to move. So they moved in to Auntie Vika's house or Grandma Vika's house in Bea. And then the Sotia, the US Sotia came and lived in Latay and they trashed that whole place. But it was huge. That's what she was telling me. It was huge. They trashed. It was like the second palace. Latay was like the second palace then, and until Queen Charlotte and Dungi moved to the palace. That's where they lived with them in Latay. And then
Wow.
she was explaining to me that house was huge and fully furnished. It was beautiful until that U.S. Army came and destroyed it in 1942.
Ah, interesting. When I went to Tonga, not last year, the year before, I actually went by and I saw the grounds. It is just a beautiful, huge property. Very,
Yeah.
very beautiful. I could just imagine how you guys lived there at one time. That's beautiful.
Yeah, we all lived there. I mean, we
Grandma
moved
was
in,
born and raised there.
yeah.
Right, right.
But
Wow.
we moved there. My parents we were living somewhere else. I can't remember. I think we were living in town, but we moved in there when Auntie Alice died because Grandpa Joe, Joe, was moving on with his life already, and he had all of these kids, and but the beauty about that is we all started living together, and to this day, like I said, I'm very, very fortunate. I live with Latu's children. I live in Latay, and I got to know all my cousins on both sides. And and I think for me, I think about my life. I'm pretty fortunate. I got to know everybody basically, spend time with everybody.
Hey, Uncle, I have a question for you. Again, this is Duke. Hey, so a quick question is: so how come everyone was able to move in after my grandmother Alicia passed? How come everybody couldn't move in while she was still living?
Oh, your grandmother and them lived in town. They lived in Talieva.
Talieva, happy Talieva.
Yeah, Happy Talieva. They lived in Talieva up above. There was
The
moving there. There was one side. That's our grandma Halevalu's family, the Vetes. So
First cousin.
Yeah, one side, and then Uncle Joe and them used to live upstairs. There was an ice cream parlor downstairs, and then right across the street, of course, is Apericola, which was the original, still is to this day the Mataile's property. In the later years, when Auntie Lavi came back from from Pango, she actually refurbished that place and called it the Beauty Inn, which was Beauty and the Inn. And those two names was put in there. And then now, of course, there's nothing there. Vic's doing with it, but
Uncle, can you hear me?
go ahead.
This is Talahiva. How are you?
Hi, Eva.
Hi, Eva.
Hey, guys. Hey, just real quickly, I grew up with my mom cooking, right? And she always told me that when she moved to Latai, Sipu, she learned how to cook from great grandpa Maile. And great grandpa Maile learned how to cook from Samoa because the family, like you said, the family that she stayed with, he went to school there and he learned how to cook international food. So that's how she learned how to cook. And when she moved to Hollywood, she was able to cook for celebrities, international food. And Grandpa Maile taught her all that. So that's how she learned how to cook all that food. And that's how she made her living in life. So that's a little info she told me.
Yeah, Grandpa Maile also, I don't know if you guys recall, Grandpa Maile also, when the new Vakai first came out, was a brand new ship that Tonga had to do the trading, you know. I mean, a lot of people don't realize that Tonga had nothing. Tonga basically has nothing to sell. But the king of Tonga was a very smart man. Like I said, his classmate was Grandpa Loma. King George the IV. He bought this boat called a New Vakai. And if you guys don't know what a New Vakai is, it's a big coconut tree in Hateo where they were able to climb the coconut tree and able to see whether the enemies are coming from the ocean. Anyway, New Vakai, the first time the New Vakai went out was Uncle George was on it. They used to go to Australia and New Zealand all the time. And Grandpa Maile was actually working as the cook on board. I don't know how long he was on it, but he did cook for a short time on the boat, if I'm corrected. But this is how Grandpa Hameti was. He was the guy that supplied all of the food to the boats back in those days, when all the cruise ships and all they needed fresh fruits and all that stuff. I mean, you know, Grandpa Hameti, that guy was an entrepreneur, man. He had his fingers in a lot of different things. When they first brought lamb to Tonga, you know, and all the meats, he had a big refrigerator in the back of you remember that, Atu?
Yeah.
That guy was, I mean, when you think about your father and how his mind was, I mean, he also, I mean, you know, he was supplying this whenever the cruise ships come into Tonga. They needed fresh fruits and all that stuff. He's the guy that supplied that. You know, he did all of this great, I mean, different things. He wasn't just one man operation on one deal. He operated that, and then he also ran soccer. I mean, it was crazy, you know. And then, of course, he had to deal with me and Benny bombing off, asking him for money all the time.
And Grandpa Maile make the best fish curry. Fish curry, that was my favorite that Grandpa Maile, I mean, Uncle Maile used to make the best.
Was it with fresh fish or canned fish?
No, fresh fish. He made curry with the fresh fish. So good. I regret that I didn't get the recipe from him.
So, Uncle, you said that you started bringing back rugby, but tell me, did you play with any cousins and stuff like that, rugby in Hawaii, or?
Yeah, we had a team called the Barbarians.
That's what
that was all our family. I mean, Tangi's dad played in that team.
Those were the first cousins team. First cousins and one Uncle Kawasi.
Yeah. I'm the only one that got demoted out of the team. So I'm a soccer player, okay? So I come to Hawaii. I played a little bit of rugby in school, but I was a soccer player. So anyway, so I come and play in the team. So Roy Hale was playing in the team. So Roy Hill was such a great rugby player. He would just sidestep everybody, pass the ball to me. I would just go and put the ball down, right? Uncle Samuel comes up to me and tells me, "Why you do that?" I go, "Nobody taught me anything else." He says, "I want you to run all the way inside to the goalpost to make it easier for Eloni to convert the kick." So he fired me. He told me, "You're going back to the B team." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah, I forgot. Uncle
Who was the
Samuel
B
was a
team and who
coach.
was the A team?
A team was Motopuaka and those guys. But so I went to the B team, and then I ended up, because my dad's family is Samoan, so I ended up playing for Diamond Head.
For Diamond Head.
And hey, I played with those guys that with Junior and those guys. Boy, man, playing against all the teams was fine until I played against the Barbarians. Those guys hated me. They were the last minute tackle me. Even I remember Paula, Cervello and those guys. They and after them, they laughed. I mean, I can pick the ball and I can count to 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I get tackled, I'm like, oh my God. But I went to play for the Samoan team. I actually eventually came back to play for the Barbarians, and we won the championship in '82. And then in '83, in '84, I went to play for the Harlequins. And
was it you and Ula, or it was
Ula.
I remember Ula played there too, huh?
Ula played. Ula was always going back and forth.
Yeah.
I played with Ula. We had some crazy times. Like I told you, he shows up with that car. I'll never forget that story. Doing donuts.
Oh my goodness. Those are cool days.
I mean, that guy was a classic. That guy's a classic.
Yeah.
Do you still have any of your rock and roll songs? Do you remember any of those?
I'm trying to. I want to get back into singing again, and so I'm buying a machine, and I was just gonna sing to the family. I sing as I'm getting older now. I sing a lot more jazz. So,
Mafu has a beautiful voice. I love your voice, brother.
Thank you. But it's just getting older. Your voice gets lower. So And
What? No more the Tom Jones voice.
No, don't sing that.
Engelbert Humperdinck.
Como cuando, eh?
Yeah, I'm trying to. I saw this machine at Sam's Club where I can sing, and and I can use my iPhone. I mean not iPhone, but you can use your phones, and have YouTube nowadays. They got all the karaoke stuff on YouTube, so all you need to do is hook that up to that machine, and you have a full orchestra behind you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I did sing when I was on 97, 98, 99. I was working on the cruise ships in Alaska. I don't know if you guys remember that. Our tour started in San Francisco. And then from San Francisco, we'd spend a night in San Francisco. Next day, we'd take the train out of Oakland. And by the way, all of those years, was 2 years, Lenny was living in Portland. He never showed up one time. And I kept calling him while I was on the train. We were supposed to meet up, and he never showed up. Lenny. To make a long story short, I was on a cruise ship, and I used to sing on a cruise ship, but for my tours. Because I'm bringing the most buses I had on that time was 6 buses. That's 300 people. The cruise ship only holds, those are the smaller cruise ships, they only hold like 1,200. So I would walk into the showroom for karaoke night. They'll be chanting my name. We want Dave. I feel like a star already, But I used to sing on the ship, and did a couple of stuff. I mean, I did 35 cruises of Alaska in that period of time, from 97 to 99. That's another beautiful place. You guys, if you want to see the last frontier, that is the last frontier. Go in the summertime, I would go people like to go right in the middle of summer. It's nice and sunny and all that stuff, but that, you don't see any animals. The best time to go to Alaska is right when the salmon is running, because that's a main food source for all of the animals. That's when all the animals come out. You'll see all of the black bears come out, elk, sea fish. I mean, you see the eagles. It's amazing.
So what month is that?
August.
August, okay.
Yeah, August best time. It's cold, but then you live in Utah, so you know you're used to the cold already.
Yeah.
Anybody else have some questions? Oh, SA, you're muted.
Okay. I want to make a comment, if I could.
Go ahead.
Okay, for some of the family who don't know who Ula is, you know, I know there's a lot of different branches, but if you don't know who Ula is Sita's son, and that's Lolo's daughter. And so Ula, we all grew up here in Hawaii. For those of you who've seen the movie First 50 Dates, right? Is that the movie?
50 First Dates.
Yeah, first
50
first
dates.
yeah.
First dates, yeah.
That character, and that character is named Ula. The movie was made after Ula's character, and he carried the name Ula. And yeah, so every characteristic he had there was of Ula, with the eye, you know, and some of the things that he said and he done. It was crazy growing up with a cousin like that. That was, you know, the traits that he had was totally unbelievable. But Adam Sandler was a guy that was here in Hawaii a lot, and chose Ula to be one of his best buddies. I mean, we hear stories from all the time about Adam Sandler, but he spent a lot of great times. I've heard a lot of stories with him riding around in Ula's truck, just trying to be an everyday guy, not wanting to be a movie star or anything, be treated that way. But for those of you in your family who don't know who Ula is, if you've seen that movie, 50 First Dates is what it's called, yeah?
Yeah.
That character of that guy named Ula was after Ula's character, was after him himself.
So Rob Schneider was the one that played his part, right? So
Yes.
Ula was telling me, he got kind of mad that he was following him all over the place, trying to imitate what Ula was doing, right? So when the movie came out, so Ula was in the mainland, you know, he was on CNN and all that stuff. By the way, he was on CNN. If you guys want to Google it, he was on CNN interviewed. Ula was telling me that he told Adam Sandler, the only mistake you made in the movie, and Adam goes, what? He goes, my wife is too fat. I never married anybody that fat.
All right.
And if you know Ula, that was Ula. That was Ula. And you know, that guy was straight up, man. He'll tell you straight. I got mad at him a couple of times because he used to tell me straight, you know. And then I played against him, and we lost that game against him because he scored on me, because he kicked the ball through Tao's legs and he went and scored. And after the game, he came up to me. He goes, "I'm still the better winger in our family." Ula.
You're so free spirited, hey, Mafu.
Yeah,
So free spirited. Such a fun, loving guy too.
Yeah, nobody likes him.
Were you guys there when he got the scar, like when he was younger, or what?
His eye.
That's another story. You want to know the story?
Nah.
Tell the story, Mafu.
Ula loved women and women loved him. And he actually ended up with this woman, and he was with this woman, and this woman's ex-husband or ex-boyfriend attacked him with a knife. That's how he got the scar.
Okay.
That's okay, Uncle. We're all signing non-disclosure with your lawyer, so not a biggie. That's okay.
My lawyer is actually texting me on the other side, telling me I cannot reveal too much.
Is Uncle Ula still alive?
No,
No, he
passed
passed.
away.
Oh.
Sadly, he had brain tumor,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
you know, I visited him many times, and he was with me, and then he was with the family, of course. Lavi was always with him. Lavi, the sister. Lavi loved him. I mean, there's so many.
Lavi could tell you stories of Adam Sandler.
I met Ula at our 2003 San Francisco reunion.
Okay. I want to share something about Sonelolo. In Tonga in 1974, December 1974, you know, when basketball was going on and stuff, and my dad was out of town, and he left the car with Ita Kolomatangi. So all of us, the girls in town, we went to go, the team in the basketball team in our area was playing in Longoteme, and we wanted to go. So me and I can remember who, we went to Ita's house and told him that my dad wants a car. And he said, where is he? He said, oh, he's over there, but he wants me to drive the car over there. So he gave me the key. So I picked up the car. I never drove before, but every time I ride with my dad, I watch him. I watch how he do the gear and everything. I watch everything he did. So we pick up the car, okay, pick up the girls, and I was wearing my sunglasses, sit on a pillows to make me big. I was 15, and we were driving. I followed that when Maafu was talking about Lutu. We were coming and we were turning in my need to turn to go to Longoteme. Lutu and them were there, and I guess he noticed, so he stopped us. He stopped us, asked for the license, and I have no license. So they told us to get off and wait for the bus, and they take the car to town. So, but Hameti, I think, was coming in a day or two. So we get on the bus, we went back to town. I went and find Sonelolo. Sonelolo, come here, go and pick up the car from the police station. And so Sonelolo went and pick up the car from there, bring it and take it back to Ita before Hameti even came back, and he didn't even know anything about the drama. And another story about Tony. You know, Tony, my partner in crime. So when a couple of Sundays, we wanted, I was dating Modi at the time, and we wanted to have a picnic in Hateho. So I will call Tony, tell what time to meet me, and me and Iki and some of the ladies. So Tony will come in to the nice green car, pick me up, and Iki and alongside and them take us to Hateho Liku, and then tell him what time that he can pick us up to bring us back. So me and Sonelolo and like Maafu said, you know, we were just doing some crazy stuff. But those guys were just, I just love them to death.
You were Pao?
No, I was Angalele, yeah, but Tony always cover for me. And I told them the story on the day, I don't know if many of you here were not here. When I came to Hawaii, I was 6 months pregnant with my second son. No insurance, no money. But then Sonelolo came and picked me up one day and said, let's go. We went to Kaiser Hospital. And he said, sit there. And he went, talked to this girl. I saw him sit on the desk of one girl, talk to the girls. And then maybe an hour, maybe half hour to an hour, then he came back and said, okay, let's go. And I said, what did you do? No, don't worry. When I had my son, I only paid $50. I don't know what kind of arrangement he made, but he did. I only paid $50 when I had Penny. So crazy.
Hey, that's why I tell you guys don't realize Son-in-law that guy was brilliant. He had a brilliant mind. And sometimes it just, people didn't understand him, but he had a brilliant mind. I mean, like I said, I still hold on to those emails because every now and then I read it and I'm like, damn, this guy, his ideas and everything, But
I got some stories about my brother, about Son-in-law. As Mafu used to talk about how brilliant he was. And as a kid, you don't realize that. You just realize, man, this guy is just a headache. But I know when my father bought a second home in Utah, in Provo. So Son-in-law and some of my other siblings ended up going to Provo and graduating from Provo High School. But he went to school with some very rich families. And there was a time where Son-in-law came back to Hawaii and he brought over some ideas. My father ordered the first street cleaning company. It was called H.M. Matale Enterprises. So if you see those street sweepers in the streets here in the state of Hawaii, my brother actually brought the machines here to Hawaii, and my dad invested into to bring and start this. So and actually that's where a lot of us young kids grew up learning how to drive, because we had to drive and clean the parking lots at the Alamona Center, at Kahala Mall, at the airport. So you can go for miles, without hitting anything. But that's how a lot of us learn how to drive and stuff. But Son-in-law actually mingled with a lot of these very, very rich and very, very bright people. I can tell you, when I was, I think in intermediate, maybe just getting to 9th grade, I used to take him to some of his meetings and I would drop him off, and I didn't think twice about it, but he'd be meeting with CEOs from different hotels. And then when I pick him up, he always tell me, what he's doing. I remember as a kid then when he would tell me that one day, the hotels, you can go in a hotel and book your own flights on a computer. And I would look at him like, what are you talking about? Yeah, one day every room will have a computer and you can actually book flights to go anywhere in the world from it. And this is back in the late 70s. As when I'm taking him around, I was still in intermediate and stuff. And so he'd come home one day and drive up in a Mercedes, or drive up in a Cadillac, or drive up in a Porsche. Didn't know where he came from. It's just people that he mingled with that, he had these things. I can tell you a funny story. Like Mafu was talking about, that he was a writer for the nightclubs. The magazine was called Disco Scene Magazine. So every week he would go to all the nightclubs and he would write what he thinks about and grade different nightclubs. And the crowd would move to depending on what he would write about the nightclubs. So I would end up taking him, dropping him off, and come back and drop him off in late nights. It got so boring to me that I didn't want to go back, because sometimes he would call at 4 or 5 in the morning to pick him up from places in Waikiki, and I'm trying to go to sleep and I was still in high school, go to school. But I'll tell you a funny thing that happened. I got tired of it, but he called me and he said, "Hey, you need to come pick me up. I'm done." It's about 4:30 in the morning. So I go to pick him up. I think it was somewhere in Waikiki. I forget the hotel he was at, the nightclub he was at. As I'm driving through Waikiki. I'm mad because he wakes me up this early in the morning. I'm trying to sleep to go to school, and I see a policeman go flying past us. So I think, okay, I'm going to teach my brother a lesson. So I'm following the policeman in Waikiki, and he's in the back screaming. Needless to know, I didn't know he was stoned out of his mind. And so he was freaking out in the back while I'm chasing the cop following him because I'm scaring him, telling me, you're going to call me this early? This is what's going to happen. You sure you're going to keep calling me? And he is screaming in the back, stop, don't, what are you doing? So I'm following him, and I turn off. On the way home, he's quiet. And I'm telling him, brother, I know you're older than me, and it's for me to listen to you, but I can't keep coming to get you early in the morning and stuff. It's like, he tells me, okay. And I said, now you know, next time you do it, I'm going to chase the cop down and tell him you're stoned or you're drunk or and take it away. After that, he never did call me again to come and pick him up. But that guy,
poor Lolo.
Yeah, poor Lolo. But at the same time, growing up, he was a brilliant mind. He was into everything, and a lot of people in government, a lot of people in high places, you didn't know he knew him. But that's the kind of person he was. He never would carry more than $10 in his pocket because everything that was put in his pocket, he gave it away.
I was gonna say, yep.
He had a lot of money, and he had a lot of stuff that he had. It didn't matter if it was jewelry, clothes, cash. He saw family, it was gone.
Yeah.
If he came out and he realized you're his cousin, or auntie or uncle or what have you, that money came out of his pocket. First thing that came out is money. Go, do you need anything? Like, he really went and bent backwards. But I think back in those days, and I recollect a lot of things that he's done. Like Mafia was saying, he was way, way, way ahead of his time. And some of the meetings I dropped off him and sat down and tried to think of some of the people that he dealt with. It's mind-boggling. It's mind-boggling that he was ahead of his time. He talked business with a lot of these people. He would call me from Fiji every so often, and it's one of those calls because caller ID came out before that. When he was calling, it was him. Like, and like, okay, what is he gonna need next? But that guy was way ahead of his time. Loved the family. And when Atu was talking about it, everybody called him, his nickname was Insure, insurance man. He worked for insurance firm. And next thing you know, a lot of the family was covered. That's and I know for a fact because a lot of times I know there's a lot of things that happen in the time, and they came find out later, goes, hey, you're getting benefits. And you go, yeah. So all of a sudden, yep, I didn't even know. Some death in the family or something happened, and they realized that, oh, we're getting stuff. And I don't know how my brother pulled all that stuff, but he was a way, way ahead of time. Very, very loving guy. When I found out that he passed away, I know what he used to do here was kind of crazy. He's one of those guys that would go into the mountains, and he would fast. And he would say he's going to fast like Jesus, and he's going to go fast for the 40 days. I think at one time my father called the police. The firemen, everybody was looking for him. They brought him down, and it was like the 35th day. And they made him go, and he said he found his way down to the river, drank some water. And my dad kind of like told him off and told him, hey, you're not Jesus. You need to realize that you're not Jesus. But that's how strong-willed and strong-minded he was. He put his mind to something. There's nothing that's impossible. When he plays sports, people are afraid of him, because he might not be the biggest guy, but when he hit somebody, everybody knew it. Everybody knew that he can hit and he can tackle and stuff. But yeah, it's funny to look back at these days and how strong-minded, not only my brother, but the Mataele family, the Mataele clan, when they put their mind into something, it can, you cannot tell them no. There's just no way. So, Mafu.
No, I gotta tell you this other story about Shirley. So, when I was living right above Silly's nightclub, right? And I have pictures of that Christmas tree we had, right? So he calls me from downstairs. He goes, buzz me in. I'm like, what are you doing? He goes, buzz me in. I need to come up right now. He drags in a whole marijuana tree through. I have a picture. There's a picture of showing them that was our Christmas tree that year. He drags them. This is a bungalow. There's no weed on it. I mean, there's no good stuff on it. Just the whole tree through the lobby now. We got the security sitting in the lobby. I don't know how he got through. And I have pictures of that when I was living at right above Silly's. Our Christmas tree that year was a big marijuana tree. That's showing it pulled right through the pocket, through the lobby, That guy, I mean, no, when you reflect about Shone, there's so many funny stories about it. I mean,
Sounds like somebody I'm related to.
You are related to that guy.
I want to say, as far as Son and Lolo, I can tell you right now, he is the most handsome of all our Mataele first cousins. I'm not kidding you.
Yeah,
he is the very, very. I don't see anybody who looks like him. And
he had a great smile.
As far as being so handsome, he never had a set girlfriend. He never had a set girlfriend, but he was so good looking. Yeah, he was just one of those. Essay almost looks like him. Essay, I think with the dimples and everything, but Lolo didn't have dimples, but he was a very, very intelligent and good-looking guy. GQ guys have nothing on Lolo, I can tell you that.
And Matafa Mili to everybody.
Yes, exactly.
I mean,
crazy.
He's your brother.
Hey, Auntie, Uncle, I have a story for you guys. When he was living with us in Hollywood in our old house.
No, Hiva, don't do it. Leave it alone. Hiva, don't do it. Leave it alone, Hiva. Hiva, leave it alone, Hiva.
Okay.
Leave that story alone.
Never mind.
Hiva, leave it alone.
I miss my uncle. He was the best uncle ever.
Hey, can we kick her out of the meeting?
What happens in Hollywood stays in Hollywood.
Can we kick her out of the meeting?
Hiva, what happens in the Hollywood stays in Hollywood.
I'm in Hollywood right now. I want to know.
I miss my uncle. Him and Uncle Ma'afu and Uncle Duke are my favorites uncles. And I miss him dearly.
So just to follow what my sister was saying, it's true. Shione had a great smile. And I have to tell you, every other month, he had a new car. I kid you not. It's true. No, it's true. He had
new car, but no new girlfriend.
It's true, Auntie. It's true.
Yeah. Crazy.
Wait.
Hiva, just push mute. Hiva, just push mute.
Hey, hold on. Like, we can kick her out. Like, it's okay.
We kicked out everyone that had a story about a family member. We would never be able to have Zoom meetings.
Did he? Is that why he went back to Tonga? I heard he was in the military. Yeah, he went army or something like that, and then he went AWOL, and then he just took off back to Tonga or what?
No, I don't think he was ever in the military.
Oh, he came to Tonga, and I went in mission first, and then while I was in my mission, Micah came in, and then Sinaloa came in. So we had three of us in the same mission at the same time in Tonga. But yeah, I don't think he was in the military.
No.
Another story about Shone. Shone is one of the craziest drivers you ever can meet in your life. So, remember I say when he had that Porsche?
Yeah, he taught me how to go in between cars with a Porsche.
He taught me how to drive too.
Oh no! How's your driving record? Hey, him and Velata would have a race. Remember when we guys were living on 8th Avenue? So I get in the car with him, Velata and him, and we're driving down the freeway. And we're going to the airport now, okay? I can't remember. Somebody was leaving or something like that. Shone will drive, you have the vehicles driving down the road, okay? They know the lane in between. Shone will be driving between the two cars. And they're in the lanes. And people, you see people's eyes just freak out, right? We get to the airport. Soon as we get to the airport, soon as we pull up and stop, I take the keys out. I said, I'm driving now. You're not driving no more. But that sure they had, I mean, hey, crazy driving, man. I mean, you know, like I said, I think he really lived his life to the fullest. I mean, you know, I remember right after he got, when he came off the mountain, you know, Ula was the one that found him one of the times he went up there. And he came straight to my house right after that. And he wanted to drink alcohol. I'm like, you better get out of here, Johnny. You're not going to touch nothing in this house, even if we don't have alcohol. I said, if anything happens to you, everybody's going to blame me. Okay? So, but, you know, we have such fond memories of Johnny. You know, another person, too, that I whenever I hear some songs, I think about that person is Faitu. You know, the Eagles, you know, that band called the Eagles, Faitu used to love the Eagles. And wherever we went to, she will always play the Eagles music, you know. And every time I listen to Eagles songs, there's songs in your life that you reflect on. But Faitu, I will listen to songs by Faitu that remind me of Faitu. And because she used to, remember the jukebox back in the days, right? You go to the bars or the nightclubs and all that. They used to have a jukebox. And so Faitu will always be playing. And I told Louis that. I said, if you listen to a lot, if you end up listening to the music by the Eagles, that's because that's the music your mother loved. Hi, Auntie.
Hi.
You have something to say, Auntie?
No, I like to
Love
listen.
you.
I like to listen to you, all of you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi,
Yeah.
Auntie.
Hi. Hi.
Auntie, can you please
Hi,
maybe
Auntie.
just update us with Uncle Harry's funeral since you're on there?
Yes. Uncle Harry's funeral is supposed to be in April. And after I arranged with the bishop and everything, then I went to the mortuary. And I came back and they told me the Relief Society president called. And they said they make mistake because they thought it's all open up at church because I wanted to be at church in Kahala. So after 4.5 hours, Luisa and Tuponiua's daughter and Carlo went with me. We came back. They told me the bad news. I cannot have it at church. So I called back. They will. The mortuary is open on Friday and closed on Saturday. Somebody took it, and I called Diamond Head for the burial. Same thing. Nothing. The only day they said is open is Mother's Day weekend. And I said, who wants to come to a funeral on Mother's Day? Well, I looked at after Mother's Day, so they said it's open, Diamond Head and Porthwick. So we will have at my house on the 13th of May, and 14 at the mortuary, and 15. So we'll be, we are working on it. Carlo left, she will come back, and Mao, they have been with me for 2 months, helping me. And I told them I don't want any married women with me, only single women. So I don't want the husband to think that I will take them away from them. And Lavi is so sweet, even though she is married, but she come here so often. She come and go, and I told her, you have to go back to your husband at night. You cannot stay here. So, but the time for Thursday will be at my house at 5 p.m. to 9. And Friday will be at the mortuary if the church still not open up. Will be from in the morning on, this is Friday morning, the family will be the 8 to 10. No, the family is all night. It's 8 to 10. Yeah, let me see. Let me think again. I'm wrong. 5 to 10. That is the family. See, the mortuary, they don't want any longer. That is Friday. And then we have, I think we have divided up Carlo and Mao and my brother Kawasi and all of them, they have divided all those days to feed people. And of course, I'll always stay at the meeting and listen to them, what they decide to do. And then Saturday, we'll be still at the same place on the family again, 8 o'clock in the morning to 10. That the bishop will be 10:30 to 11:30. Then we go to Diamond Head for burial. So yeah, that is the schedule for the funeral. I want to have it in April, but cannot. We cannot do it because of the mistake was made by, I don't want to blame anybody, but so after the April, there's no places open up. So in a way, I think it's good. Everybody will be ready. And Alai is here. When somebody told him it will be in April, he bought a ticket and he cannot refund his ticket. So they were here. We have dinner here last night. Alai and his family. It was so nice. Alai Monu's son. Very, very nice to see his family. So so that is the plan right now. It will be in May at my house from 5 to 9, and we'll be allowed church and everybody to come here. I think I like the idea. People come here to the home. It's very homey. And Prince Tungi is coming from LA. Mata and Micah are bringing him. He will be here on the 13th at night. So he will be at the funeral on Friday and Saturday. And Wahai was so sad. There was a Fo'ui funeral that we went there. Good thing that I hardly go to anything because of my husband, but now I can go to the family stuff. So we went. It's I don't know if you too young to hear about Kaumature.
Yeah.
That is the oldest son of Kaumature is Panasai. He passed away. So we all went there. Labi came and drove Desa and I. So we went there and it was very nice. So we went to the funeral and then we went to the burial. It happened. Lavi said, Auntie, we can go to Telenoti. Telenoti Sand. He passed away 1 year ago. So he said, Vivian is Siosi's daughter, married to one of the son. But we are related to the wife of Telenoti, Lolo Hea, her name. So my mother related to them. So it was just perfect after the burial. And then Wahai said to me, Auntie, I'm so sad. I said, why? I have to leave. I said, leave for where? I'm going to Tonga. He has to go to the parliament and they pay for his ticket to leave from here next Monday, tomorrow, to go to Fiji and stay there for 2 weeks, then to Tonga. They don't want him to miss the opening of the parliament. And I said, Wahai, it's very important for you. Not only for you to be at the meeting, but you get paid. And I asked, what about Tuna? The Tuna and the children will stay in San Francisco. Then when the meeting finished, maybe he can come if he can come back to the United States. But he's such a wonderful man, Wahai. He's so loving. And, I didn't know that Wahai can talk. He's so quiet. But he gave a talk at Malai. He really so good. And I said, Wahai, I'm so proud of you. I didn't know you can talk. I look at Wahai on the shy side. He doesn't really talk, but he's very, very good. So he was the one who was the Ulumotua at the funeral. And he's supposed to be Ulumotua for our funeral too, but he said to continue, send out the letter in the radio and say after his name. So I said, okay, thank you. So far now, all of us here in Hawaii are so good and healthy. Nobody got the sickness yet so far. And Tessa and Carlo and Mao move and stay with me. Tessa is still with me in Brownson for over 2 months. And Carlo went back to get her shots, and Mao went back to babysit for grandchildren because what is her name? She went back to work, Delta Airline, the daughter.
Bonita.
Bonita, yes, Bonita. So, but when I listen to you talk about Halaiwalo and Maide, it just reminded me, Toti, my older sister, and I, we used to go to Tovavau and Onelu. I was younger, but they always wanted us to come for Christmas in Latai. And Halaiwalo is the sweetest, sweetest woman I ever met. She's so sweet. And even Uncle Maile was so, he was just quiet, but Halaiwalo is more talkative than Maile. And so Onelua and Tovavau and myself and Toti, we will go to is that the Coca, the Xiaoxi, no, James Coca's girls, Siosi, Rupi, is that their last name, Coca?
They're the Cockers.
Yeah, we always spend the New Year's Eve at their house. We will always go there, so they always want Toti to come, and Toti bring me along with her to Latai, and we stay there around the Christmas time. And Latai always have the huge, beautiful Christmas tree, huge, huge Christmas tree. And they have so many bedrooms because Chotu Latai and Alice stay at the corner. There's a corner left of the house, and they stay there. And Penetova Va'u, they didn't stay there. They have their own home, and but I think the time I went there, Tovava'u was still single. The time Tovava'u and Onelua, they both single. So and somebody mentioned, Marv mentioned that the two difference between Onelua and Tovava'u, definitely different. They both have a different personality. Tovava'u is the sweetest woman I ever met. She's just so loving and happy. To Manu and Tovava'u always do sitapak dancing. We always love them, seeing them. They always make them to dance, and we love to watch them dancing. Was Manu and Tovava'u. But Onelua he talked, but it wasn't that, whenever he talked is something different. Very, very different from Tovava'u. But we love Onelua because she's outspoken. She will say whatever she felt to say, but it was okay. We were all okay with us. And up to now, we love her dearly. We have her beautiful, beautiful, and I want to thank Ma'afu and the kids to put up a beautiful birthday for her at the house. It was so beautiful. I wish, and then, when we went to Tesa's birthday, it was so cute. Tesa put us, Tesa and myself and Onelua and Ma'afu's wife in a one table. And what she did, she got up, came and stand by Tesa and just hold Tesa's hand and tried to get some food and feed Tesa. And I said, Tesa, what is her name? Ma'afu's wife. Get the chair here. It's no use because she's going to sit there all the time. Let her come Onelua sit here. So Onelua sit by Tesa. And she said, the first thing she said, I wish Anna is here. And I said, yeah, Onelua, Anna cannot come here. I'm sure if it was open up, they will be there, Willa and Anna and everybody will be here. And, it's so good. It seems like she's so close to Tesa and I now. Onelua, she's just so loving. And when her birthday, I said to Iona, you come, Tony's wife, daughter, you sit there and I sit there. We have to sit closer to her because we have to make her happy, somebody she know. Because if we put somebody else, then she's not happy. Onelua is the type, if she doesn't like anybody, she just keep quiet. She doesn't say a word. But that day she got up, she got up to Tony, Latu's son, say hello to Tony and kiss Tony. There were a couple of Fijian, they were here. She got up. Even though they came and see her, she still got up and went and see them. It was so beautiful birthday, Maafu, beautiful. We are so close and she was so happy. It was too bad that Anna and Dewil are not here because you have no choice, cannot get here. But your mother was so loving. I gave up. I went there twice, but I cannot, go up at the step. So, so hard to go up there at the step to go to the fourth floor. Uh, that's where they Onelua stay. But she's very strong. She's very strong. But if she doesn't like you, she will never say a word. But if she likes you, she will talk all the time. Especially now, I notice it. So, she's healthy. I asked, I call, and they said, she's okay. Everything is okay. But like Mafu said, your cousin is Malualoi. She will talk to anybody she wants to. And if she doesn't, if a family comes, she doesn't know them or she doesn't want to, she just keep quiet. I said, that is Onelua. That is the real Onelua. Yes. And to me, it's okay. But when Tony came, I was surprised. Tony was in our living room on his wheelchair. Tony, she got up, went kissed Tony and rubbed Tony's hair. Lonelua, she has to know people and she wants to, she will do it.
I'm close to her.
Yes.
Remember back then,
Tony Falcone.
Yeah, she named me Falcone.
And Maloney, of course, Maloney is our #1 picture taken. Maloney is always there. And Maloney, we love Maloney and Pauline and Iona. We are so close here. We live here in Hawaii. All of us in Ma'afu. All of us live here. We are very close. Anything, party or big party or whatever, they come to my house. Because our hill here, they don't bother. They are good neighborhood. The security one day, I was outside, he came up and he said, Auntie Carlo, can I come and talk to you and introduce myself? I said, okay, come. He's a young man. And he said, I know you. I was surprised when he called my name, Carlo. I thought because my car, I said, Carlo. And he said, I know you. I said, how in the world do you know me? I was a young man in Waikiki and I saw your pictures all over in Waikiki from your show. I said, thank God, now you are going to take care of me. And you allow me to have all my party here, my family party. He said, you can have party anytime. So that's why we have no problem. We have party here, nobody say, no, our neighbor, nobody say anything. It's so nice and I'm so happy about that. Very good. And Maloney is so good with his pudding. It's so tasty. I love it, Maloney. And the family, anybody have business, I love it. Love it. I love Ma'afu and his wife. She's sweet, sweet, sweet wife. Very nice. And she loved Onelua. Ma'afu's wife is really, really a nice woman. Very loving and to the family. When a woman come in and love the family, that's what it counts to us, the Matayere family. Very much. I see Mao, my niece over there. So let me tell you what Mao and Carlo tell me. They first came, they said, Auntie Carlo, there are 2 things we want to ask you. I said, what? What are you going to ask me? If Uncle Harry die, please don't get married again. I said, hello, I don't plan to get married. And they keep reminding me all the time. And I said, you know what? If Harry died today, I get married tomorrow. They all crack up. And then the second thing, we want to feed you to be fed like us. I said, Mao and Carlo, I rather die than fed like you too. Yeah, but so nice. I miss Carlo, I miss Mao, but they will, when they finish all their things, they will come back. And it was so nice to be with them. They're so helpful, and and one night they told Harry, I was sitting there, Harry, you have a girlfriend named Carlo. And Harry looked up at them and said, no, she is my wife. It was so funny. You know, they all keep teasing Harry those days, and my husband would die very gracefully. That night was a Sunday night. I took his food to feed him, and I can see him have a hard time to breathe. So immediately I called the nurse. The nurse came in, and she wanted me to put oxygen, morphine, every hour put morphine on Harry. So we did that. But once in a while he opened up his eyes and looked at me. And then again he closed his eyes, and the nurse said, okay, we continue giving him the morphine. And after about 2 hours, this is about 8:30, the nurse said, I'm going to go, and I called another nurse to be here. So another nurse came back and do the same thing, check his blood, and he said his blood is very low. And then I stood up, went to his legs. His legs was cold, but they told me when the person close to die, they would turn purple, but nothing turned purple. Harry was still warm all over his head, his hand, except his foot. So then I think about 10 o'clock, 10:37, the nurse confirmed Harry passed away. I tell you, I had the hardest time. Even though we married in the temple, sealed for time and all eternity, but still, I miss the man. He was so good to me in every way, in everything. He even quit his job because he said, what the use of married to you? And I spent 2 or 3 nights another country. So he quit his flying, and he opened his own company, Sukup Realtor here in Hawaii. And you know, I said, he was the right man. You all knew that I engaged full time, and it didn't happen. And he was just the right man for me. Love the family, love everybody. And I miss him so much. And yet I feel good because he's in a better place now. He doesn't feel any pain or anything. And I know he's on the other side of the veil and waiting for me. He must be impatient. But sometime I forgot he passed away. I got up and ran to the bedroom. I thought, and I hear him call, Mama, Mama. So, but he's in a better place now. And I know I promised those 2 girls, Carlo and Mao, when times come, maybe I would take them on a cruise, because it's what Harry and I go twice a year on a cruise to get away. But I don't know after, because we are going to go to Tuponiwa's birthday. Tuponiwa will be 75 in June 19. And days are already called. You know, Tuponiwa has the sweetest wife, Berenice. But you know, we know Berenice so well, and Tessa is the one always make fun with Berenice. But Luisa called me up and said, Auntie, we are going to have a birthday. I hope, Paula, is your mother there?
Nope, she's not.
Oh, good, I can talk. So
I'll stop the recording.
Good. So